You're listening to the Savoir Faire Audio Experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire Experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire Audio Experience. Thank you guys for sharing and caring. I really appreciate that. I'm glad to see everyone's loving the podcast and giving us your feedback. Today is another really great interview that I wanted to bring to you guys. Obviously, I've talked about this a dozen times that music is a huge piece of my world, and I love interviewing and talking with musical artists. And today we literally get the pleasure of communicating with a living legend in music for sure. So I'm so excited to introduce you to Bill Nash. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great. I'm thinking like Merle Haggard when they introduced him as a legend. He said, "Oh, that means I'm old."
Well, don't. I mean, you are the youngest legend that I think.
Maybe so. Well, thank you.
But I really just I know your name so well from the music scene and songwriting and a lot of the things that you've done in music, and it really is just an honor to be able to communicate with you and talk about music. So if people are looking out there like you're just tuning in potentially, please pay attention to some of this stuff because you're going to learn from a man that knows a lot about the music industry. And I'm just excited to kind of pick your brain about a lot of this stuff. And then obviously also talk about some of the new stuff you have going on, which is great. I think you said to me off record that you're 70 years in music at this point, and that's just amazing to me. Like, congratulations so much on that honor.
Well, I appreciate it. You know what? It seems like yesterday in some aspects of it, but then again, now that I'm 80 years old, as you and I are doing this interview, and I'm still, I still have the bug, man. I don't think when God gives you that talent, it will drive you crazy if you don't vent it. So I go everywhere that they ask me to go still, and I'm having the time of my life because I know it's all going to be all right. We're just going to have a good time in the music that God's given us and enjoy it. And it just brings it's the reason we get together, right? That's how I know you, Robert.
Yeah, I love the energy already. I can't wait to dive into some of this stuff. So Bill, I know who you are from my time in the music industry and being in Nashville and things like that, but a lot of people don't. And so I always like to start off with just kind of giving a little bit of your resume, where kind of things started for me, but go back a little bit further than just music for me. I want to understand a little bit more about, your childhood and growing up and how that all kind of played into you really getting involved in music and probably at a very young age. So can you tell me that story, how music literally became part of your world and how you grew up?
Shoot, man, I'll try my best to keep it as concise as I can because I know we only have a little while here. But my dad was a pastor, so I was raised on the front bench of the Pentecostal church singing "I'll Fly Away," and the one that sang the loudest was the best. That was my 5-year-old thing. And I don't know, as I got to be older, then my mother found out my brother and I could sing, and she started a trio called the Nash Trio. We ended up in New York City, and Gene Rayburn discovered us. We were singing for the Grandmothers Convention while we were there. And we ended up on the NBC television show that he had going called Do Re Mi at that time. Now he had the Match Game then forever, and you'll still see reruns of that. But Gene Rayburn was our manager for a couple of years and ended up getting us on Columbia Records. And Ernie Altschuler was our first producer, who was Perry Como's producer. And to get our demo tape made, Gene Rayburn took us over to Columbia Studios in Manhattan, New York City. That's a huge church, Robert, and it had a sign out front saying Columbia Records. That's the only way we knew we were there. After the TV show, that's where we went. And Dave Brubeck was recording that day. But Gene knew him well. He went in and said, "Hey, Dave, do you mind just sliding off your piano stool for a while and let the Nashes make a demo tape?" And we didn't know who Dave Brubeck was. We're from far Texas. If you go down to the very tip of Texas where Brownsville and McAllen and Harlingen, that's where I'm from. 7 minutes from the Rio Grande River. Después yo puedo hablar un poquito español. I can speak some Spanish.
Okay.
Sing in Spanish. Yeah. So anyway, we ended up on Columbia, and that's how we made our first album in New York, and they asked us immediately for a second album, and that's where we went to Nashville And Johnny Cash's producer, Don Law, became our producer, and we opened the Columbia Records Parade of Stars at the Grand Ole Opry 2 years in a row, right for Johnny and June. They were the last on the show, and I stood right beside them. There's a funny story in my book how Carl Smith was the MC that day, and he had been married to June Carter before Johnny married her. See how deep this story can get real quick?
Oh, yeah, it always does. I love it.
Yeah, well, June and Johnny couldn't have been nicer to me. I was 14 years old, and they acted like I was their kid. You know, I'm standing there with them, chit-chatting and waiting. And, boy, when Johnny went on stage, let me tell you, that Opry House, you know, I'm trying to think of the name of the Grand Ole Opry place downtown.
The Ryman.
The Ryman Auditorium.
Yep. The
Ryman, yeah. Man, that place exploded. That was when Johnny was really huge in the music industry, and he really liked the Nashes and the Nash family. We did that for several years till my brother got drafted, and here's history coming in. The Vietnam War came on, and my brother got drafted, and I went back to high school from touring. And what's a personal thing with me is none of my kids that I went to high school with had ever hardly been out of the valley. They call it the valley in the South Texas Rio Grande area, Rio Grande River area. And man, I'd already been in New York 3 times. I've been to Nashville and all. And now I'm sitting at a desk going back to high school. It was kind of like, oh man, what am I doing? But I loved all of my friends, and we still get together from time to time. So that's how my music started, gospel music. But when it came time to go to college at the University of Houston, I had to work my way through. My dad was a small-town preacher, so he didn't make any money hardly. $50 a week wouldn't hardly feed 4 kids and a wife and support all that we needed. And I started singing in my aunt's bar, which was a quarter of a mile from my dad's church. And I was singing gospel songs to these people while they're all drinking beer and whatever they were drinking and stuff. And they liked it. And the church kicked my dad out, said, "You can't be our pastor or your son singing in a bar." It was like, okay, it's funny now, but it wasn't then. It was quite a deal. But that's where I learned to sing the Hank Williams songs, you know, Jambalaya and Cheating Heart. And I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. I love that song. And that's how we came. I know we're going to get to the Hank Williams project here in a minute. But that's how come me to write that song, because I started studying a little bit about Hank. So anyway, that gets my career to U of H. And while I was at college, I won the talent show and got discovered by Jerry Kennedy at Mercury Records. Next thing I know, I'm in Nashville recording. And you know who my first songwriter was?
Who?
I bet you do. He was the janitor at Columbia Studios.
Oh, I don't want to guess.
Well, you don't have to. Here's how it worked. I get to Nashville, to 16th Avenue South. Mercury Records is right across the street from Columbia Studios, where we had cut our second album for Columbia. So I'm sitting there, and I meet Jerry Kennedy for the first time. He sent me a contract in the mail, and I couldn't afford an attorney, and I just signed it. And my thought was, hey, this has got to be better than what I've been doing at that little bar where I've been singing. So anyway, I get to his office, and we go and sit down, and he picks up the telephone, and he dials the number, and he says, when they answer, "Is the janitor there?" And I'm thinking to myself, he told me that some of those famous songwriters that wrote for the Statler Brothers and all those guys, they were going to write for me. I'm wondering, why is he calling the janitor? And he said, "Come on over, Bill wants to hear your song." Well, that was puzzling, because I'd never lived in Nashville at that point, and I didn't know that every waiter in every restaurant was a songwriter that had a hit song if they could just get discovered.
Yeah, exactly.
True, man. Remember when they had gas stations where they would come out and fill your car up themselves?
Yep,
they
I
would
remember
do it
that.
for you. Well, all of those guys, they were all songwriters. I mean, Larry Gatlin, who's one of my best friends of all time, met me on the campus of U of H one day. I was a junior and he was a freshman. And he said, "Do you remember me?" And I met him when his family and my family were doing the singing conventions. But we were on Columbia Records. We were kind of like stars, and his little family was just getting started. Mm-hmm. And so now he's a huge star, and we still are great friends. And I just saw him recently in Nashville. He invited me to the Opry. They're doing a classic Opry on Thursdays. And so we were backstage with him and carrying on. But that's what happened. There I was waiting for the songwriter it was the janitor at Columbia Studios, and he came in and sat down. I'm going to make you guess something. Are you ready?
Oh, I know who it is.
Oh, okay. Well, you saw my bio. You're way ahead of your audience.
No, I know who it is because I worked with this person's daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's small. It's a small world. I'll make some of these connections with you. So it's Chris Kristofferson, right?
It's Chris Kristofferson. Yeah,
Yeah.
he walks in the door with his black jeans all faded out and black T-shirt and a burr haircut, and he sat down and crossed his legs. And the first clue that I had that he was not a successful songwriter was that he had holes in the bottom of his shoes.
The janitor, yeah.
I can't be too successful, but man,
Wow.
he played that song for me for the good times. Don't look so sad, I know it's over. And the clinching line of it, Robert, was when he got to, there's no need to watch the bridges that we're burning. I've never heard such a positive stroke of words say something about something so very negative as divorce. Divorce will destroy you, man, if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that firsthand. So unbelievable. There
Man.
he was.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, your story is pretty thick, and I love that you kind of went into some details there. But I do like the idea that it really kind of started for you as a family group, and that's really kind of unique, right? I mean, not a lot of people get to do that. And obviously, through the years, you've kind of broken off and done some stuff by yourself. I do want to kind of go through some of your bio that I was able to read and give some people some highlights. I mean, one of the things that I know you well for is your songwriting, for sure. I didn't know the trio very well when I was in Nashville and doing some stuff. I didn't recognize the name, maybe some of the music, but I mean, obviously I was involved with a lot of writers that were working with Reba McEntire and Diamond Rio and so many other like really great, say like late 90s, early 2000s artists that you were getting hits with and writing for and working with. And Chris Kristofferson's daughter, Casey, shout out to her if she's ever in the world and hears this. We worked at a songwriters cafe together. I was a dishwasher. She was a bartender. This is way before like Chris really, really blew up. So the kids had regular jobs. So, and that was kind of a thing that it was kind of implemented and very cool. But like, I learned so much from, the Music City in general about music and connecting with people. But your name came up in a lot of conversations when I was, diving into these albums and looking at these artists and these songwriters, because I was really focused on songwriters. That was what I wanted to do with my career and what I wanted to do in life when I was there. And I wanted to learn everyone that was doing it the best. And those are the people that I wanted to connect with. And I think conversations came up like, Bill Nash is one of these guys that's been getting hit after hit and he's on the records. And I'm like, oh, that's great. But I never crossed paths with you until today, which is great. But yeah, just one of those people that a lot of people kind of brought names up when you talk about, the top 10 guys in Nashville that are really making it happen. And when I was there from 97 to 2003. So only like 5 years, but I took in so much from that time there. So, yeah, very cool that we have a little bit of connection, who kind of aspects, which is kind of cool. I wish it would have connected us when we were both there. Maybe paths would have been a little different.
Hey, well, let me ask you this: it was Casey. Is that Rita Coolidge's daughter?
I'm not positive the mother. I knew she was Chris's daughter because we had talked about it briefly, but I never really kind of treated the artists and stuff that would come through or that I would meet that were kind of famous around the radio. I never really treated anybody like they were celebrity. It was just a guy that was really good at his job, and that's the way that I always looked at people. So I always try to keep that environment. I think that's why people feel comfortable enough to like connect and communicate and talk with me, because I don't freak out over something. Now there have been moments in my songwriting career, or even since I had the magazine now, where I've had to like call my mom and be like, you're not going to believe who I interviewed today. That's happened for sure, but I don't freak out in the process of it all, and just kind of keep it, professional, and understand that we all put our pants on the same way. And, there's experiences that I want to adapt and learn from. And that's really cool. But today's about you. Hey. So let's go back to some of this stuff.
Well, wait a minute. When you said that you had to call your mom and say, guess who I had to do that when I was living in Hollywood. I was on Capitol Records now by this time. Okay. And I got to be on the Steve Allen show. He is the guy that started the Tonight Show. So he still had a national syndicated television program, and I got to be on with Lucille Ball that day. Ooh. And it was like my mother's favorite actress of all time. And Mama, guess who I was on TV with? I'm going to tell you, the scream on the phone, "Oh, I love her." I said, "I know it," and I told her so. And last thing about Lucille Ball, I love Lucy. When we left KTLA there in Los Angeles, heading to the door to go outside of the parking lot, she stopped me and kissed my forehead and said, "You have the most beautiful voice." I've never forgotten that. It was like I didn't have enough sense, Robert, to say, if you have an audition for somebody like me over Desi Lou, I could be over there in a while and audition for something. I was already going to be a big star. That's one thing a young artist needs to learn. Till you get that hit, until it's in the can and it's out and it's been run its course, you don't know what you have.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to you about that process, and I know things were definitely different back in the day than they are now, obviously. But you are releasing some new music now and kind of going through the steps again. So, talk to me a little bit about the difference. I mean, the idea of getting an idea for a song, putting it on paper, writing everything out, and then let's start from that part where we've now got a song that's ready to go. What's the difference between, let's say, 20 years ago in the music industry when you're getting songs published by artists and stuff and still performing on your own compared to now? What are the biggest differences that you're seeing trying to get the song into the right hands and get it moving out there a little bit?
Well, the greatest difference, I guess it's a double-edged sword in a way. Back in those days, if you couldn't get a song to Nashville, New York, L.A., and get some major label artist interested in your song, it was a terrible fight to try to get attention. But I know that I was trying to think of some of the artists that started out by just going and driving in their car to every radio station across the country. The country artists I'm talking about, and introducing themselves to the disc jockeys and play my song. Loretta Lynn is a perfect example of that. That's how she got her first hit record. We were there when they gave her first award for her first number one. We were in Nashville that week, and my brother got a picture with her, and I took the pictures, and we didn't think to have him take a picture with me with her too. We didn't know who she was going to be, but that's another lesson to learn. They didn't have cameras in their phones, and so that's how come some of those pictures are different. Okay, but anyway, on your subject, now we have Spotify, and you have, what's the other thing, Apple Music, and
all kinds of platforms
where an artist has a chance now if he comes up with you need to have a recording of your song in the best way that you can do it. If you're a singer-songwriter, that would be coming from my point of view, and that's why at 80 I'm not afraid to put out a new product, because there's still a chance of a worldwide thing going on, where back in the day of Loretta Lynn days, you'd have to go to every radio station. There were promoters that you could get that would do national promotion on phones like you and I are doing actually right now. But you had a watch line, they called it. When I would go into Nashville, they would put me in an office, and I would call radio stations, country stations all across the United States. Hey, this is Bill Nash, and I'm on Mercury Records, and they asked me to give you a call, and you know the promotion side of it. But boy, nowadays you can actually. I know there's some my younger artists that have come to me for advice. A young man, you wouldn't know this name yet, David Lewis, but he has 100,000 followers on social media. And the kid can play. He's a great singer-songwriter. Hayden Baker's the same way. Hayden just got a song cut by Brooks and Dunn on their new album that's coming out, and they asked him to play lead guitar for them. That's awesome. How. But I've known him I've known his dad and the family since he was a baby, and his dad brought him over to my house here where my son's piano still sits, and my guitars are all over the place, and we picked and grinned a while. But now, man, this kid is coming to prominence. So remember that name, Hayden Baker. He's going to be a great star. He's a great looking. I don't mean to be promoting everybody but myself, but I love people, and I love these young artists that can really bring it. And man, those are two names that I believe in wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think there's a lot of streaming platforms and social media and a lot of different things. And like you said, it used to be like if you couldn't get your songs in front of the major artists, then there was a gatekeeper at that point. There's no gatekeeper now. If you got a really great song and you can get it produced correctly and you can make it sound great, you can distribute it with any platform and it could go viral. And before you know it, you could be making, hundreds of thousands of people listening to your music and then begging to hear you live. And it causes a frenzy around some new artists that are kind of coming out and really adapting that style, which is super cool. I mean, when I was in Nashville, I always say, well, I didn't make it because I only wanted to be a songwriter and I couldn't get past the gatekeepers in any place. And it turned out to be an industry where it was all about who you knew. And if you knew the right people, or if you co-wrote with the right people, or if you just had the right names attached to your branding, then you would be able to get into the door. It was easy to name drop, and people respected that a little bit. And it was such a big deal back then to really kind of be in the clique, I guess. And it was all about who you know. And now it's completely different to me. It feels like anyone could write a really great song, give it to an artist that maybe is not recognized, and if it's a hit, it's going to be a hit, period. The people just
exactly.
adapt
But
to that.
let me tell you this, what was the miracle about our song getting cut by Reba McEntire? I knew that was the way it was, but I didn't know anyone in her camp, and yet we felt like this song, They Asked About You is the name of the song, would be a great hit for her. And I took a tape over, and in those days, we had enough friends that we just networked with that were just friends. And they're the ones that said, hey, Reba's going to cut. And they said this and that. And I found out where to drop the tape. It was at Reba's office before she built that beautiful building on 17th Avenue. And I dropped the tape, and I had so much faith, Robert. I said, fat chance of that, as I walked away from her building. And a month later, we got a call from her producer, Tony Brown. From his office, he said, would you please drop a tape of that song by my office? Oh, my God, I was so excited, and I dropped the tape there. I think I was there in 15 minutes. We were living in Nashville at the time. And a month later, we get a call from Reba's office, and he says, would you like to come hear how Reba cut your song? What? It's like that never happens, but it did for us. So I didn't have any networking to do for that. It was a God thing. I've always given God the credit for that. And we went and met Reba and saw her office. Oh, she is, let me tell you, man, I could be a press agent for her into eternity, because this woman is the sweetest gal you ever met. And she is down to earth, and she is herself. I went by one day, and actually she signed us to write for her for a year, and then she sold her company shortly after that. But I went through the lunchroom that she had in her offices, and she had all the girls that were kind of working for her, secretaries, and they were having a little luncheon thing there that afternoon. Sure, smart aleck me, I walk up to get a cup of coffee, and I'm getting my coffee, and I says to Reba, hey, Reba, what does a big star eat for lunch? And she looked up at me and said, I don't know. It was like, okay, I think I'll just keep walking. And I said, okay, see you later. And I took off. But
that's
she
awesome.
and her mom and her family, her mother told us that our song was her favorite song of all time that Reba had ever cut. And this is like her big pop hit, not Does He Love You, but we're on the same album as Does He Love You? I know you know that song.
Yes, I know that one. Yeah.
And she apologized to us for not doing a video on our song because she said, I spent all my budget on Does He Love You? And they blew up a boat in this thing. I don't know how much that cost them. A real boat. They blew it up. That was part of the...
I do remember the music video for that song for sure, where they blew up the boat. That's an iconic memory in my life for sure, seeing that stuff. So, yeah, that's really cool.
We love Reba. We just got a quote, by the way. Our song has now been played 1,019,585 times.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's amazing,
Can you
man.
believe that?
That's so good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
a God thing. It really is. We still sit in awe. And she sent us 2 beautiful pics. It's a big frame with 3. When it hit 3 million, she put CDs in it with a cassette in it denoting 3 million sales. And she sent Kim one and me one. And it's a beautiful thing. When she had her long red hair, Robert, I know you remember those days.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
We hated it when she cut her hair off because we loved the way she looked in that. But we still love her, and we appreciate her. And if she's out there in your listening audience, we love you, Reba Mac.
That's so cool. I know so many people that have written for her, engaged with her over the years, and it's really incredible. Like, she is one of the people that has one of the kindest hearts in the music industry. So it's good to hear just another testimonial to her personality, for sure. And I love that. But I want to talk about, Bill, I want to talk about the song that you just released, because I was listening to it today before you and I connected and talked today. Locked in Your Loving Arms, and this is so nostalgic. The song is like so good. It reminds me of clearly like the Hank Williams Jr. kind of vibe, for sure. Or not junior, I'm sorry, senior, for sure. I never heard your voice actually until I heard this song today, and you got this nice little twangy thing going on that it is so country. I love it. But talk to me a little bit about the process of this song, writing it getting released. What's the whole process? Just take me down a little bit of your memory lane with this track.
Okay, I'll do my best to keep it as concise as I can, because it's been a several-year project with me. It just started in my office sometimes. We do a thing called Champions Kids Camp for children who survived cancer and stuff like that and lost parents and stuff. My son, Billy, is a survivor, and I'm a Jesus guy, so I give Jesus the credit for healing him instantly, which is what happened at Texas Children's Hospital. So I'm sitting here at my desk, and I'm playing, I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love with You. And I finished the song. And then, I don't know why Hank Williams was on my mind. You try to explain a spiritual thing, and it's tough. But I'm thinking about, he died in the back of his Cadillac at 29 years of age in 1953, January 1, and in the middle of wintertime. And his driver was driving him to a gig, and they didn't make it there. And they blamed the alcohol and stuff like that. And I started thinking about it, and I had researched a bit to find out he had spina bifida, which is an incredibly painful, chronic thing to have. And he wrote all those songs in the midst of all that pain. And only in those days, opioids were not too prevalent for painkillers. And he used alcohol, and alcohol did take him over, and I get that, but it caused other maladies in his body. Well, I'm thinking of all that, and it's like he died with no one there. Actually, that driver had gone into this convenience store or whatever. I'm trying to think of how that would have been in 1953. Service station probably. And he comes back and finds him dead. And I thought, what would I have done? I would have said a prayer. It was like, and it just came out of me. It just flowed out. It's like, oh, Hank, I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I would have said a prayer when your soul took flight that cold winter's night. All alone there in the back of that long blue Cadillac. What a lonesome way to die. Makes me want to cry. And then it went on, and my story started, and I just was I was starting to cry sitting here at my desk thinking of Hank. And then I started thinking of I Saw the Light. He wrote that song. It's a gospel song. And it says, I wandered so aimlessly, I filled with sin, I wouldn't let my dear Savior in. Then Jesus came like a stranger in the night, and praise the Lord, I saw the light. And in my training and my growing up, I know that Jesus would never have deserted him. And I plan to see him in heaven. And I plan to sing with him on the banks of that much talked about river, the river of life, river of joy. Hank, I'm going to see you. And that's why I wrote the song, and it was so strong in me. It was such a thing, and I included my son and my wife because they're my partners in writing. It's pretty cool too. If we ever had time to talk about my little boy, who is now my songwriting partner and our music producer in Nashville, and he sings background with his mommy on my stuff, and I love it. And I thank the world for Hank Williams, and I always say I'm so sorry. I wish I could have heard all the songs you would have written, if you'd have lived. And it's a spiritual thing with me, really. And that's how that song came.
Wow, that's awesome. I really appreciate your time today, Bill. I know, like, busy life and a lot of things happening these days, and I love that here you are, 80 years old, still putting music out, still grinding and writing, and that's just really a testament to your love for music, and I can hear it in your voice when you talk about the people that you've connected with, just how truly how you appreciate every little thing that's ever happened to you in your life. And that is a huge testament to your life and everything that you've done. I'm so glad that you're like a family man and we were able to connect and talk today. It's extremely an honor to like really just sit here and shoot questions with you and talk about history and actually just have you take me down memory lane myself too, because when you're mentioning some of your stories and the things that you've done, we do have this really great connection where I've met a lot of the people that you're talking about, and I've had music experiences with those people as well. And that's just really kind of cool. And I love that we're in two different generations, yet our paths have crossed a million times. And finally today we were able to connect and really communicate and talk. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I appreciate it. And by the way, Robert, when you get off the air and all, I want to get your address so I can send you a copy of my book.
I love that.
Governor Huckabee flew us to Nashville to be on his show a couple years ago when our book came out. It's got a lot of history, and you probably already have it. I don't know, our press agent may have sent you one, but if not, I would love you to have a copy of it, and I need your where I can send it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure you get that information. So again, thank you so much. And a shameless plug for everybody so they know, bknash.com is Bill Nash's website. You guys can go over there and check everything out. His new song is called Locked in Your Loving Arms. It's available on all streaming platforms. It's available on YouTube if you want to get, a viewership thing there. I even found a couple line dances for it. So if you're one of those people that want to get on the floor and move a little bit, there's a couple videos of a line dance that's involved with Locked in Your Loving Arms. So people need to go check this stuff out. It's all part of a new project, new album by Bill Nash. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. God bless you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.